Are you ready to start learning about edit mode in Blender? Let's just jump right into it. To begin with, add a cube mesh to our scene, and since mine's small, I'm going to scale it up and move it above the floor there. Now, in Blender, individual objects aren't these parameterized things that you can go and change some parameters on to change the shape of them. They are rather just broken down into the faces, points, and vertices that make them up, but we can edit those directly, meaning that while in the past we've been able to work with the individual shapes, we can now make our own shapes. How do we do that? Well, to begin with, the easiest way to get to edit mode is in the upper left hand corner of the 3D view. There is a drop down that says object mode. Click that and you'll see that we have edit mode, but we also have a bunch of other modes. We're not going to worry about those for now. Just click edit mode. Now we are in edit mode, and you might notice that things change a little bit in our view. We've got new menu items across the top, new buttons, new gizmos on the side. Let's go back to object mode though by clicking that same drop down and choosing object mode. Now another way that we can get to edit mode, notice our view's gone back to object mode. If we want to go back to edit mode, easy way to do it, on your keyboard, the tab key. Just hit it and we're in edit mode. Notice all the new options. Hit it again, we're in object mode. Now there's one more way that I want to tell you about. If you hit Control tab, then this little radial menu pops up, and you notice this has all the options that we saw in our drop down over there, but they're wherever your mouse is, and I kind of dig that. There's edit mode, and then Control tab, object mode. So that's pretty good. Let's go back to edit mode, however you want to do it. I'm just going to use tab. And then let's start clicking on the cube. And notice that when we start clicking on the cube, we are selecting the individual faces of the cube. We're not selecting the whole cube, just a part of it. This is the power of edit mode. With a face selected, start changing it, transforming it, move it around, however you want to do that. You can use the gizmos or you can use the hotkeys. Scale it, rotate it. You might notice that once you start rotating it, things are going to look really weird because, yeah, Blender doesn't care. If you want to break the mesh and make it unprintable and make it impossible, it's like, yeah, okay, no problem. It's your mesh. You do what you want with it. You have control, and that control can sometimes be a little bit scary or dangerous. This is why I suppose some people are like, Blender, it's not really a CAD program. Well, it has CAD abilities, but you're right. It does enable you to break a mesh, and that's fine. You know what? What I want you to do right now is break this mesh all over the place. Do some rotating and scaling and changing it and seeing what you could do with it. Just have some fun with it. And when you're done, I think I'm done at this point, I'm going to exit edit mode. So I'm back in object mode, and I'm just going to delete the cube. And then we're going to add back in. Let's add back in, instead of a cube, let's add a monkey in right now. Now I'm going to have to scale Suzanne up and move her above the floor again, and then go into edit mode. So now I can select faces, and I can still move them on Suzanne, but with more faces, it looks like we can do some more interesting things. But what if I wanted to do more than just individual faces? Well, there are some other buttons at the top here next to that drop down. You notice we've got 3 buttons. One of them looks like a 3D cube with the face selected, and that's the current one selected, but the next one to the left looks like a cube where an edge is kind of highlighted. If you click that, we are now in edge select mode, so it selects a line, and you can start selecting lines, and we can start taking these lines and moving them around and rotating them and scaling them. Don't be afraid to break the mesh. Break it all you want. Right now, we're not worried. We're learning right now, so we're not worried about doing it right. We're worried about figuring out how to do it at all. So there you go. Go crazy and have fun with that one. And then right next to that one, there's one with the cube with a big dot on it. Click that one. And now we can select individual points. Now you might notice that with the points selected, we can't scale them. We can't rotate them. We'll talk about why we can't do that in a minute, but you can select individual points and move them anywhere you want. Suzanne is looking rather silly right now, and I wonder how yours is looking. But have a good time with that. Now there is a quick way that we can switch between these modes. The hotkey for these are on your keyboard, not on your number pad. If you press 3, we go back to face select mode. If you press 2, we go back to edge select mode. And if you press 1, we go back to point select mode. So now you know how to get into edit mode and how to select points, edges, or vertices. And I hope you get the idea of what the difference is between these all are. Vertices are the corners that define an object. Edges go between two vertices, and faces connect multiple edges together. Sometimes my tongue gets away from myself, but there we go. So that's the difference between those three. However, you might have noticed if you go to face select mode, select a face, and then jump to edge select mode, we now have multiple edges selected and we can actually start rotating. So how do we select multiple objects at a time? Well, you know what? I need a clean monkey for this part. So I'm going to exit to object mode, delete Suzanne, and bring in a new Suzanne so that we have a fresh monkey to play with. That sounds like I'm a mad scientist. I need another monkey. But let's go back into edit mode. And let's put ourselves in vertices select mode. If we wanted to select multiple vertices, we could do that. I'm sure you've got a guess as to how you could do that. You could do that by holding down Shift and selecting multiple ones. And with multiple vertices selected, we can now rotate in vertice mode or scale or do all kinds of things with that. So that's one option. But there are lots and lots of other ways to select things in Blender. Let me show you a couple of them. The one that I really enjoy is called circle select mode. Now there is the first gizmo on the left hand side is our select, and we usually have it on select box. So maybe let's talk about box first. If I have that one selected and I draw a square on my screen by clicking and dragging, I will select everything that was inside that box. But you might notice something. Select a part of Suzanne, any part, doesn't really matter, and then move it around. And you might notice that for some reason we're getting some immediate broken geometry. Why? What's happening there? What's happening is we didn't select the vertices that we couldn't see. So undo back and notice, if you look close, that there are some faces that aren't selected, and there are some vertices that weren't selected because we couldn't see them. So how do we fix that? Well, let's deselect everything, and the way you do that is the same as in object mode. Alt-A deselects everything, or under select none. If we change so that we can see through things, either by pulling up our view and toggling X-ray, or if not doing that, going to wireframe view. Now when we do box select, we are selecting through the entire thing, and we can move that entire thing, and we haven't got hidden geometry that we haven't selected. Now there might be times when you want to have that hidden geometry, but in this case, not really the best. So go ahead and just box select something on Suzanne and move it around and get a feel for the box select. Okay. Now, I do like the box select, but there's another way that we can get into it. Another way that we can get into it is, let's say that I've got the movement gizmo or maybe the transform gizmo selected, and I want to box select a region. Instead of jumping back to the select gizmo, we can come up to the select menu, and there's box select. Now, the hotkey for it is wrong. It says left mouse. There's another way to do it. If you press B, you're in box select mode, and you can select a box, and that's now selected, and we can move it however we want to do it, or scale it, or rotate it, or do whatever we want to do with it. So you get that? B for box select mode. Pretty useful. Now there's another selection. So we go back up to that select gizmo, click and hold it for just 1 second, and then move over while we're clicking. There's circle select. Now circle select is interesting because you just kind of drag over it, and anything that gets caught by the circle gets selected. Pretty neat. But you know, it's kind of hard to deselect, so you'd have to deselect everything and retry and select it, but there is a better way to control it. Let's say that I've got that transform gizmo, or really anything. We could do this at any time. Under select, you'll see that circle select has a C, and now it's showing B as the box select. I don't know. C for circle select. Now, With circle selected, you can actually scroll the mouse wheel to select more or less. This to me is why circle select is so useful. But notice if you start selecting things in circle select, it doesn't stop circle selecting. So you can select more, or, and this is something powerful, if you use the middle mouse button and click and drag, you can deselect. So you can like fine tune your selection with the circle select if you wanted. But then how do we get out of circle select? I want to start moving things around. Well, that's easy. Right mouse click, or I believe, is it the escape key? I always right mouse click. There we go. And now we're out of circle select mode. In fact, I can jump back in and deselect this part and then pop out of it. And now I can move just the part that I want to do. So there we go. Let's go back to solid mode. Oh, Suzanne is looking terrible, but we're doing this with control, so that's pretty cool. I'm going to go jump back to wireframe mode because there's another select that I want to show you. Click on that select gizmo, and there's a lasso select. Now, with lasso select selected, we can just draw whatever shape we want around. In fact, we can go and select a part of it. But you might notice that if you select more than one thing, it deselects the previous one. So how do you select more of them? Well, hold down shift while doing your circles, or while you're doing your lasso select. That would also work for circle select too. But there we go. We can now lasso select whatever we want and move it around or scale it or do whatever we want to do with it. Now the hotkey for changing your selection gizmo, I'm going to go over to my transform gizmo, and here's the hotkey for it. Press W. Now I'm in lasso select, press W again. We're in just tweak, press W again. We're in box select, press W again. We're in circle. So W is the key for switching between different types of selections. But I like, my favorite way to do this is with the C key to circle select, because I feel like I get more control like that I can change the size and that I can deselect things with ease. So for me, that circle select is probably the best way that I do this. But you know what? Once again, I'm not going to tell you what to do. You can do anything you want. You have control. This is your mesh, your world. You can do anything. And in fact, I'm going to call it here and give you guys a little bit of homework to work on. So here's what I want you to do. Basically, what I want you to do is I want you to do everything that we did in this video. Add a monkey in, size it so that you can work on it a little bit. Go into edit mode, and I want you to use the tab key to go into edit mode. I want you to switch between vertex, lines, and face select with the 1, 2, 3 key on your keyboard. And I want you to do just like we did. Go into, well, actually, I'm going to say just with the circle select. Press C, pull up the circle select, select a portion, move your view, circle select another portion, or refine your selection, and then see if we can make like quasi Suzanne. See if we can make the weirdest looking Suzanne you can. Try to absolutely just John Carpenter the thing out of Suzanne here, and see if you can make the wildest looking Suzanne that you can. But I want you to focus on using the circle select tool, selecting and deselecting parts of it, and I want you to focus on just doing it that way with the circle select, selecting and deselecting, changing your view and things like that, but also just rotating. If you want to switch to edge select mode or face select mode, do that with the 1, 2, and 3 key, and then just make the wildest Suzanne you can. And make it something that you can come show me on my Discord, because I enjoy it when people show me things on the Discord and show off their silly things. You don't have to 3D print this. We don't have to throw this at the 3D printer, but just make the wildest Suzanne you can. I think I'm going to use this one in the thumbnail, so maybe you've already seen it. Wow. Well, there we go, guys. I hope that this is helpful to you, and you are learning so much Blender. You are doing amazing work, and I hope that you're starting to see the power of this tool. Let's keep going with this, and I will see you in the next video where we will talk a little bit more about edit mode and the powerful things that it enables us to do. So I will see you then. Bye.